Hey guys, Kier here, and this time I actually wrote a script, so let's see how this goes. Anyways, as you can see by the title, this is an Orient review. Orient being the most recent work of the person who made Magi. But yeah, you know how these go. I'll talk about the characters, the story, and then anything else at the end, while giving ratings for each of these sections I already mentioned. Anyways, let's get into the video. Anyways, so the story, I'm gonna just get it right at the gate. I'll give it like a 7 out of 10. The story for Orient isn't anything really groundbreaking or anything. It takes place in a like Edo period, right, with like samurai and all that. And basically, they've just been taken over by what the series calls demon gods. And although we only have 93 chapters translated so far, it already has built like a vast and deeply explored world when it comes to how it works. Like, for example, the different systems, groups, and all of that, right? It's already explored. We already know like a good amount of it, but also not too much where we know everything, right? There's still a little mystery here and there. We know a whole lot about like the power systems, who's stronger, who's weaker, why. The bushis, right, which are basically just like samurai. Uh, all this lore and extra info, right? But at the same time, it always makes you want to know more about the individual characters, right? Because although we already have a solid idea on the world, the characters still don't really have nearly as much exploration as the world. That isn't necessarily a bad thing though, because at least for me personally, it makes me want to know more about the characters, you know? Anyways, as I was saying, the story follows Musashi and his childhood friend Kojiro and their journey as they try to become the strongest band of Bushi. And along the way, they learn more about Bushi, what it tries to be to become one, and you know how they work basically, right? And although that synopsis might not be the most unique or different synopsis, it's always a good blueprint, right? Some of the most like famous series out there, iconic series, or just the best series in general, I'll say, they always have like generally, right? A lot of them have like a very generic goal, but the reason you're like watching the series isn't for like whether or not they accomplished the goal. You generally watch it to see like how it goes with the goal, right? Like the journey, let's say, right? You don't watch One Piece to see Luffy becomes the Pirate King. You know he's gonna be the Pirate King. The question is like you. I personally watched it, and I think anyone watched it for the journey and the story of how he became the Pirate King. And the story is kind of similar to Magi, not really, but it has like its certain little points where you can like point out they're similar to Magi. But yeah, the characters in the series, they really don't get explored too much. Like for the most part, they're pretty surface level, which I honestly don't mind, right? As long as they're just enjoyable. They're not my favorite cast of characters, but there's still some characters that, in my opinion, are cut above the rest, at least within the series. Those being Takeda, Musashi, and Shiro. All three of those really just make the series better when they're on screen, and are basically the only characters I'm actually interested in. There is one character who I genuinely dislike, and that's Michiru's dad, and that's because he's one of those characters where like he's been made to be disliked, right? He tries to make him horrible. He literally is an ugly bastard, but with like everything bad combined into him. I don't want to say too much because you know spoilers, but you don't even want to know, man. Anyways, to give you some context, Takeda is a pretty similar character to Sinbad. He's overpowered, leads one of the strongest groups in the series, very charming and like charismatic. He's also got probably the best design in the series, along with Shiro. And I don't know, man. Like, if his character is like inspired by Sinbad and takes a similar route, I'll definitely be more interested in how his story goes. And when we get more chapters, right? If we get more chapters, because it's on like we just have bad translators. That I'll definitely be interested to see how he turns out, and he could honestly probably be one of like my top 10 favorite new gen characters. It just really depends on how he's dealt with and all of that, right? Anyways, Shiro is more of like that chaotic Joker type of character, right? He really just wants to like he's one of those like overpowered, playful kind of characters. Chaotic, I guess is the best way to describe him. And I don't know, whenever he's on screen, the series is always more interesting, and it's just great to see him, right? He always brings a new twist. Just how OP he is just broken. But yeah, anyways, so that really is all I want to talk about the characters. I probably give it like a 7 out of 10 again. It really doesn't shine at any of these two. The best part comes not later, but like I'll talk about the best part in my opinion in a second. Alright, so as for the next thing I want to talk about, I know I said in my Magi video that it has the best covers I've ever seen, but it doesn't even compare, right? Orient easily has the most beautiful And I mean, just look at your screen, man. It just looks like the covers look so good. Literally nothing comes close for me except Magi, right? Shinobu Ohtaka just does not miss with covers. Easily in that aspect, 10 out of 10. My favorite is probably the fourth or fifth one. I'll have them on screen somewhere throughout the video and you'll see. And another thing I want to get a little bit more into, and it's probably my favorite part of the series, is the lore and world building. I mean, they literally give you an organizational chart on how a band of bushi works, right? You know, again, I'll say it again, just like a band of samurai. And it's pretty detailed too. It's not even like, oh, there's the leader, there's the guy. No, like they give you like details about like, oh, it's the leader. Then there's this group. Then there's that group. This is how that group is ranked. You know, it goes very into detail. I really like that. Not only that, but I'm pretty sure around the beginning, I have to not reread it, but you know, find the certain part. But they even tell you like there's 5 different districts or something, and each district tells you a certain like is best at a certain thing. That could just be a different series. I'm not too sure, but the way like bands of bushi are formed, their whole culture, everything about it, really, right? It's just, in my opinion, great. Aside from the volume covers, which I don't really like consider not a great aspect, a part of my rating system for the series. This is easily the best part. This specific part I give a 9. I'm honestly more interested in seeing more about the world and what we just haven't seen yet compared to anything else, right? The only thing I'd probably be more interested in is one, how the story goes, and two, how Takada's character goes on. Anyways, I honestly enjoyed the series a lot, probably because it's by the same person who made Magi, and a lot of you already know how I feel about Magi. Honestly, great series. Go read it or watch it if you haven't. But yeah, it does have a anime adaptation coming, I think this year or next year, which I hope turns out well. Hopefully it gets a good studio. I think the only complaint you can really have is just the series' bad luck with translators. Like, I think up to like around chapters, I had to read this one time, but like around chapter 70, we have like only one person doing every single part of the translations, right? So they were focusing more on speed than quality. And I don't know what's happened since then, right? But it was around from 70 to 80. And I don't think, it might just be my app or something, but I think they like upload translations for every chapter, or like, not chapter, volume. So when a new volume finishes, they'll just upload all the chapters at once, which I hope isn't the case, right? Because although, at least for Blue Lock, for example, it was great because you got, like, one time we had, like, 18 different chapters out, like, in one day, and that was really hype. It's also not great knowing there's, like, 2 whole volumes out there, and we just can't read them because the translators just don't feel like doing their job, although I understand they don't get paid well. But so as to not, like, end that specific, like, my actual thoughts about each part on a negative note, the art in Orient is really good. It really resembles Magi a lot. It really helps with like joy and hope. For some reason, joy and hopeful expressions really look good in that art style. And while there aren't many individual panels that stand out like in some other series, every panel just looks great. The only complaint I can really have is some of the like action sequences don't look that good. But aside from that, right, when they're trying to draw comedy, it's funny. When they're trying to draw anything, it's effective and it works. Anyways, I'm gonna give like my top list for this thing before I finish the video. First of all, I'd say my favorite arc is probably the current one. None of the arcs earlier are really that like great. I mean, they're good arcs, right? Like they're probably all 7s, but they're nothing like out of this world. The recent arc, which is like the ongoing one, is probably an 8 out 7.5. It has potential to be better. It's probably gonna be better, especially with like the next fight that's gonna come up. But it's also nothing like out of this world. My top 3 characters, that's a tough one. I think it's probably gonna be between like either Takeda or Shiro. I think Shiro is I'd probably enjoy Shiro's presence more, right? And it also just shows up on screen more. But Takeda, if you like Sinbad, right, in Magi, or any of that type of character that's like doesn't show up as much but is just broken, like overpowered when he shows up, he'll probably be your favorite character. He's just really charismatic. Everything about him is great. I do want to see his character probably more than anyone else. Not anyone else, but like I'd rather see his character introduced and like explored more than any other character in the series. And probably Musashi, right? After those two, in my opinion, there aren't really too many great characters in the series yet. Then again, right, the series is relatively short. It's only 93 chapters. And while I may be saying only 93 chapters, right, the chapters honestly go by really fast. A lot of them in the beginning don't have too much dialogue. Is it in my top 10 new gen? I don't know. I only finished the series like 2 days ago, so it's hard for me to say. Maybe, right? There are some series that it could probably beat, but it's definitely not top 5. Not to say it's not a good series, right? It's still like a 7.5 out of 10 personally. It's just I wouldn't say it's in my top 10 new gen. I definitely still say read it though, right? Because that could just be my opinion. Yours can probably be very different. And at the same time, I read the series, right, just thinking about Magi as I was reading it. So, I couldn't really compare the two. They're similar in some aspects, but, it's pretty different nonetheless. But that's all I want to mention. If you really want to just catch up on more new gen, or you really like Magi and want to see more of it, I definitely recommend Orient. Otherwise, there are probably some other series that are better than it that you can probably read. I'd still say it's good though. It's like a 7.5 personally, or an 8. I'm still thinking about it. But yeah, anyways, if you liked the video, let me know what you thought down below. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, and peace.